Hi, I'm Corey Cummings. I'm an optometrist in Fort Worth, and I am here today to help you learn how to do the flipper system when you're going into Central or South America or any country and you want to do an eye exam and you want to do it simple and easy using this flipper system. The flippers came from actually Dr. Curtis. He's an optometrist in North Carolina, and he developed the system of the 4 flippers that allow you to add and subtract lenses in order to create glasses that then you can dispense after the patients have been examined. So we're going to work with 4 different flippers here. They're different strengths. You've got a 0.5 power, a 2.0 power, a 3.0 power, and a 4.25 power. So the lenses are colored with red or black, depending on if the lenses are negative or positive power. Negative will be a concave lens. The positive, the blacks, will be a convex lens. So the black will make things larger, it magnifies, and the negative will make things smaller. So by combining the powers, if I have a positive black 4.25 and I add it to a red -3, that gives you a positive 1.25. So being able to add and subtract positive and negative numbers is very, very important. So this system doesn't require any electricity, which makes it way easy and very simple to take into the countries. Very first thing you're going to want to ask them is, do you have trouble with your vision near or far? And they're going to start telling you everything about their entire life, and you just have to back up and repeat yourself. In Spanish typically is where we're doing this. Do you have trouble with your vision near or far? Then they're going to tell you they have trouble with their vision both near and far. And I don't bring enough glasses into the country to give patients glasses for both near and far. So I again say, which is the greatest problem, near or far? And so we're going to start off with, what do we do if they say they can't see far away? Dr. Curtis suggests starting out every single patient who says they can't see far away with the exact same combination. And we're going to add the 4.25s with the 3 opposite colors. So then you've got the black positive 4.25 lying over the negative red 3. That creates positive 1.25 on one side of the lens and a negative 1.25 on the other side of the flippers. So you're going to start with this and you're going to ask them if they can't see distance, which side looks better, the plus 1.25 or the negative 1.25. Some people will use charts. I don't carry a chart. I'll have them look out a window at leaves on a tree, or if there's a patient sitting behind me, or if they're lined up. Typically you'll have 20 or 30 patients lined up behind us. I'll have them look at a patient behind me and just say, look at their face. So you'll start with either the positive side. Is it better with this or this? And they'll normally pretty quick tell you which side they like better. If they like the plus 1.25 side better, then you're going to work up the plus scale. You're going to go higher and higher and higher. So what I would do is have them physically holding the plus 1.25, and then I would take the plus 2, which is black, and compare them. Better with 1 or with 2, or which is more clear. ¿Cuál es más claro? That's in Spanish. And you just go back and forth. If they like the 2 better, you're going to hold that 2 up there. You're going to lay those other flippers down. I'm going to separate them, and now I've got the plus 3 side. So I'm going to compare the plus 2 to the plus 3, plus 2, plus 3. If they like the 3, we're just going to keep going up. Then you'll compare the 3 to the 4, 3 to the 4. Let's say they don't like the 4 and they like the plus 3 better. Then you can take your 0.5 and kind of fine tune it up or down from that 3. So you can add the red, which is a negative, to that, and then separate it, and whichever one they like better. They might like, this would be a positive 2.5, and if they like that better, you're going to write that on your piece of paper, and that's what they'll take to the optical and go get those glasses. If they like the 3 better, but they didn't like the 4, that was too strong, then you can add that positive 0.5 to it to give them a 3.5. and see which one they like better, with just the 3 or with the 3.5. So you're just kind of fine-tuning a little bit. If patients say they can't see far away, they could either need a positive lens to help them with the distance, or they could need a negative lens. And you run through it the exact same way as we just did with the positive. So let's say they liked the negative 1.25 side best, which we got the negative 1.25 by adding the red 4.25 with the positive 3.00. If you can't add and subtract positive negative numbers, do some practice before you come to Honduras. So let's say they like the negative 1.25, well then we'll go up. Try the negative 2, negative 1.25, negative 2. And if they like the 2 better, then we'll set down the paddles. I'll grab the negative 3, the red negative 3, and compare those two. I'm just working up until we've reached a point where they don't need to go any further. And then when I have the final point, I'll fine tune it with that 0.5. I'll add a little bit of plus 0.5, add a little negative 0.5, and they can decide which one works best for them. I think the main thing to remember about the distance is your lenses for distance could be positive or they could be negative. So they could be farsighted or nearsighted and have trouble with their far away. So you need to try both sides when you're doing the distance because you have no idea which way it's going to go. And to get that 1.25, you add the negative 4.25 with the positive 3. Hope this is making sense. Let's switch to the near. If somebody comes in and they says, I can't see up close, it will always be positive. It'll always be black. Do not try to show somebody a red negative lens for reading. It won't ever work. It never makes sense. And if you insist that a patient needs negative, you're messing it up. So we always start with the positive for readings. I always start with the positive 2, the black positive 2. And I give them a card that's pretty big. This is actually a Spanish card that I really don't even think the top line's big enough. A lot of these patients have cataracts or pterygiums, and I'll touch on that a little bit later, but a lot of them have poor vision to begin with, so they really may not be able to see this print, which is basically large print size. So I would usually try to show them something pretty big. If there's a magazine or a book in the schoolroom is where we normally do these exams, I'll try just finding something pretty big that they can look at. You'll also find a lot of people may not have ever been taught how to read. And for those people, I'll use either a needle and thread or I'll have a piece of fabric, especially for the people that sew, something for them to just look at up close that's pretty large with pretty good contrast. So somebody sits down and they say, I can't see up close. I give them a card of some sort and then I start them off with the +2. If they have a really bad prescription, the +2 may not make it that much better, and so you'll kind of see them sort of pause and wonder, that didn't do much. So then if I don't get an immediate response with the 2, I go ahead and jump into the +3 on the black side. So I'll compare the 2 to the 3. If they like the 3, I'll go to the 3 to the 4. If they like the 4, I add the black +2 with the black +3. Now that gives me 5, and I'll compare the 4 to the 5. If they need even more than the 5, then you kind of have to get your third hand going because you'll compare. If I take the 2 and add it to the 4, that's giving me approximately 6. I'll compare the 6, and I'll flip it back over here, and I'll try the 5. I don't carry glasses higher than a 6 with me, positive or negative. Actually, negative, I only go up to a -250 because there's just that little nearsightedness, people that can't see far away in the jungles and in Central America that we've seen. So I only go up to the -250. Positives, you'll have some +6s hopefully. So after that, that's the best we can do. So comparing the 5s and the 6, let's back up, and if they like the +3, but the +4 is too strong, same thing we did for the distance. We'll stop there at the 3, but then we'll fine tune it and add the half over it with a negative or the half over it with a positive. So if I add the +3 to a negative 0.5, that gives us a 2.5. You with me? And then plus 3 with the positive 0.5 gives me a 3.5. So that's how we kind of go up and down. Same thing with those students. They're going to come in and say, I need glasses for the computer. I'll show them the positive 1.25 and the 0.5. And they always pick the 0.5 because they don't need anything. So we don't need to be giving glasses out just to give glasses out. It's hard to carry all these glasses, and typically we're doing them in our luggage and it's just too much weight. So reading's always positive, always black, never red, always positive. And then try the faking the young people out, because if not, you'll be dispensing glasses to so many people that don't really need them. And then a person comes along who's 40 or 50 and they may really need those glasses, and you've already given them to somebody who doesn't need them. Anytime these patients can spend face time with Americans, they feel like it's a privilege, it's important to them, so they want you to examine their eyes. And I always examine their eyes, and it's a very, very simple prescription. I typically use a tiny little high-powered flashlight. It's pretty bright, but normally I'm in really bright places, but be careful not to blind them with the light because it can be pretty shocking. But I'll pull their lids down, I'll have them look up or look down, and I'll make a big deal about looking at their eyes. And what I'm looking for specifically are two things that you're going to see all the time in Central and South America, and that is a cataract and a pterygium. They're from sun damage, wind damage, exposure to the elements, and you see it more along the equator or in those southern countries. But those conditions, both the cataract and the pterygiums, can actually cover the eyes or cause them to go blind, and that's where the reading glasses may or may not help them because they have so much damage due to those conditions. But if I do see a cataract or I do see a pterygium, I let them know that that's why their vision is poor and we're not going to be able to make it any better with glasses. And typically they need a cataract surgery, but they may not have access to medical attention. So on those patients, if I can't really help them do anything, I may give them an artificial tear or a lubricant if their eyes are a little bit red and if they need just something to make their eyes feel better, or they can leave with sunglasses as well. Sometimes patients aren't that interested in sunglasses because it makes their vision so much darker. So don't be surprised if you have sunglasses that you're giving out to patients, if they put them on in there and they all giggle and laugh and then they walk outside and they take them off because it's going to feel too dark. So I kind of save the sunglasses for people who might really have some irritation, or the motorcycle driver, something to protect their eyes. When they sit down to talk to you, sometimes the very first thing out of their mouth, if I ask them if there's something wrong with their eyes, they'll just start rambling on and on and on about a couple of words. They'll talk about arden, dolor, seco, or pican. Those couple of words there mean their eyes are dry, irritated, red, they bother them. They'll say it over and over and over. You'll hear it repetitively in what they're saying. And you don't really need to worry about all the other things that they're saying. They'll talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and it used to really frustrate me that I couldn't figure out what they were saying. And finally one of the interpreters said, they're saying the same thing over and over and over. They're complaining that their eyes are dry or irritated or red. Those patients, if I have lubricants, if you have artificial tears, a lot of the pharmacies that we're packing into these medical teams will have lubricants. So you can prescribe an artificial tear for them that will make their eyes feel a little bit better, at least temporarily. And that's where too, if they're outside a bunch on a motorcycle, they can put sunglasses on, or you can give them an artificial tear. A lot of times, some of the patients are just so glad to see a doctor. They just want you to give them something, and so they'll kind of lead you astray on what they need. And don't get frustrated. They're just so glad to actually have some face time with a doctor, and they want you to hear them. And so I always try to be extremely patient and kind of hear them out and try to give them something that might help. If glasses won't help, then maybe the eye drops. And if the eye drops, we don't have eye drops, then maybe you have a pair of sunglasses, but just something that might make them feel a little bit better. If you're doing the exam and just nothing seems to be working, they really might have cataracts that are just so dense that it's really caused them to go blind. And that's super common. Anybody over the age of 60 or even 70. If you find patients over 70, they're almost always going to be blind from the cataracts. So those patients, we just really can't help them. Glasses won't help them. They need to have those cataracts removed. Dispensing the glasses. So I've got some really good bad examples, because after I write the prescription down on their piece of paper, I'll hand it off to my daughter Catherine. She typically does my optical for me. She'll take that piece of paper, and then I'll have a box of glasses that we get from the Lions Club, and she'll dig through there and pick out a pair of glasses. They really care what the frame looks like. So if you know this is the prescription they need, but it's not working, try the exact same strength, but just maybe in a frame that looks a little bit better, because you might be surprised. It has nothing to do with the power that you're giving them, and it has everything to do with what that frame looks like. So she told me to tell y'all that you could go through 6 or 7 pairs of glasses before you get to the right one, and it again doesn't have anything to do with the actual power. It has everything to do with the frame itself. I normally don't give them that many choices. If I'm running the optical, I'll give them 2 or 3 choices and tell them that's it, and they have to choose from those, because they just love to dig through the box and get some selections. When you're putting them on their face, you want to make sure, 3 things I always try to look for. Make sure the temples are fitting them around their ears. It's pretty easy just to bend the temples to get them so that they're not too loose. You'd hate for this to maybe be the only pair of glasses they ever get, and then they get out there in a couple days they fall off their face. So I try to make sure the temples are somewhat tighter, and again, it's just they're metal wires. You can bend them, and if you break them, and you start off with another pair. You want to secondly look at the nose pads. These are disgusting, and they are in terrible shape. A lot of times they'll be missing. Don't dispense a pair of glasses without nose pads, because that would be uncomfortable, and you wouldn't wear something without nose pads. I wouldn't take anything like this, honestly, on my trips, because these are in such bad shape. They're super, super worn down, and the glasses are really scratched. That's the last thing you're going to check. You check the temples, you'll check the nose pads, make sure there's no pads, and then look at the lenses. Are they super scratched? If they're super scratched, you don't want to give them scratched lenses either. Kind of think about what you would actually wear, and would you be able to tolerate that. All of the things that you can manipulate on these, typically you can. You're just pushing them with your fingers, kind of opening them up. There's a broken pair. You're not going to give somebody something that's already broken. There's another broken pair. This, you're not going to give somebody like that either. So you can kind of mash on that side, see if you can get it in a little bit more. If it doesn't look like it's going to work, it's just too bent out of shape, just toss those and start with another pair. But look at the temples, look at the nose pads, and then look at the lenses and see if the lenses are scratched or not. So do you have trouble seeing things far away or up close?
Up close.
All right, so I'm going to hand you a reading card in Spanish. And I'm going to start with the +2, never negative, always positive, never negative, always positive. So we'll start with the +2. Are the words on the card better with those lenses?
Better.
Better. So we'll go from the 2 to the 3 and compare those. Is it better with this lens or better with this lens?
About the same.
Okay, that's okay. We'll keep going then. So I'm going to keep the 3 in my hand. I'm going to put down the 2. I'm going to grab the 4. We'll look at the 3. Look at the 4.
Oh, 3.
The 3. So we'll go back to the 3. And so we'll fine tune that a little bit. And we'll stay at that 3, but we'll go up a 0.5 by adding the black 0.5 to the black 3. That gives us a total of 350. Is it better with 2 or better with 1?
With 1.
With 1. Then I'm going to flip it to the other side. Now we've got the negative 0.5. We'll add that to the 3. That gives us a 250. Is it better with or without?
With.
With. So that lands us at about 250. And then you can kind of keep that together. So I'm at the 0.5 to the +3. That gives me a 2.5. And if I've had time, I'll compare. Now I've got a 2.5 and the 2. We'll see which one's better. Compare 1 with 2.
1.
1. So +2 is where we land. You write the +2 on the piece of paper. I usually use, if people are going through the medical clinic, I'll just put it at the bottom of their medical sheet. As they see the different doctors, they'll get the instructions, and so at the bottom of the sheet, I'll put a +2, and that patient will take it over to the optician. In this case, it would be Catherine, my daughter, and she'll pull out a pair of +2 glasses and check them on them.
Thank you.
Pleasure doing business with you.
Gracias.
De nada.